Welcome to the First Time Homebuyers Podcast. My name's Philip, and I have with us Monica, who's a licensed real estate agent.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on and want to really get your expertise on this. We're going to talk about home inspections. Let's start off by talking about when in the process a home inspection actually takes place.
Sure. So once you've approved yourself with the lender, then I will send you a list of homes based on what you have said you are looking for. Once we have the lists going, next we're going to go for a tour of these houses to see how you like them in person. And honestly, it's so important to see them in person versus over pictures because something might be bigger or smaller. Something great might be left out of the pictures. You just never know what you're going to see, and it's so much different in person. Once you, as the buyer, find what you're looking for, we write up an offer. And then once our offer gets approved and accepted from the sellers, that's when we start the inspections process.
With these inspections, what is the home inspector actually looking for?
The home inspector is actually looking for quite a few things, actually. They're doing a general inspection, so they're not roofers, not electricians, not plumbers, so definitely keep that in mind. But they are licensed to look for certain things. And what they're looking for are problems with the roofing system, issues with the foundation, any malfunctioning or outdated electrical wiring, any sort of leaks or water damage, mold, any sort of mildew or growth, issues with the flooring, plumbing problems, and any sort of pest infestations.
Oh, they're really doing a pretty in-depth look at the house.
Absolutely. So my personal home inspectors have actually gone through and given a 50 to 100 page report, and it usually lasts about a 2 to 3 hour, depending on the size of the house. So they're very, very thorough.
Can you give me an idea of kind of what their process is?
So a typical home inspector is going to spend anywhere from 2 to 3 hours inspecting the home. Like I said before, depends on the size of the house. The bigger the house, the longer they'll be there for sure. They're going to run every faucet, check the hot water, make sure that there's no leaks. They're going to check the windows and the doors for leaks. And if the windows are properly fit, they're going to measure the heating and the cooling system by actually running them. So they'll turn on the heater, they'll turn on the air conditioner. They measure it with a specific tool to measure how hot it is and how cold it is because it should be at a certain temperature that it comes out at. They're actually going to run the dishwasher. They're not going to run it if there's dirty dishes in there, but they definitely want to see if there's any sort of overflow coming back out of the dishwasher. They run the oven, the microwave, the stove.
So pretty much all of the kitchen appliances, they're going to go through and make sure that everything's working properly. Sounds like they check all the outlets to make sure there's no issues with them. They're going to look at the windows and doors and look for leaks. So they're really checking everything.
They are. And they actually go up on the roof, or they'll use a drone to go up on the roof as well. They check the perimeter of the house, the foundation of the house. They're going to go and do a very in-depth, thorough investigation for you.
As part of the process, is that something that I need to be there for?
As a buyer, I highly recommend that you're there. You don't necessarily need to be there for the entire inspection, but I definitely recommend that you're there for at least the last hour of the inspection. Your buyer's agent should be there to represent you. They should be doing their own inspections as well, but they should definitely be there with you, and you should be there for the last hour, so at least.
And that's when the inspector can actually walk you through what they've found.
Yes, exactly. The home inspectors that I've worked with have taken that time to point out where the water shutoff valve is, any sort of main problems that they're seeing right off the bat. That's just a really good time to connect with that home inspector and get that full report, basically.
Yeah, and I think it'll add a lot of context to what the written report, which is, like you said, 50 to 100 pages.
Yes.
So they could say, here's some things that are really important that you should look out for. Or things that they say are really great about the house, because we've seen that too, where they say, hey, this was done really well, or this is really high quality. And it's nice to know that, because that's not necessarily the kind of thing that makes it into the report.
Absolutely. This is your time to go through the house room by room as a buyer and really just measure for furniture or, get those quotes done.
A lot of times, let's say you're thinking about repainting the house, they're going to ask you, well, how big are all of the rooms? And so you can go through and actually draw that up and get those in notes. And so they may not even have to come out because you'll have all that information there.
Absolutely.
And what if, as a buyer, I'm not able to make it to the inspection?
Good question. We get that quite often, actually. And, with work schedules and everything, that's really hard to time. And we understand life happens. You don't necessarily need to be there. It's not going to be the end of the world. However, I very, very highly recommend you being there. It is very important for you to know the ins and outs of the house. Like I said before, the main shutoff valves, etc. But me personally, as an agent, I am always there with my buyers. I'm always representing them, and your agent should be there as well.
And if you physically can't make it, but maybe you're available because you do work with people that are maybe in a different state.
We get that quite often. And actually, it's not necessary that you as the buyer has to be there for every inspection, but I do highly recommend it. Like I said before, this is something that's going to be very important for you as a buyer to have that information privy to your knowledge. But if you can't make it, we understand, work schedules are hard. For example, I had a buyer who lived out of state and was moving to California. We actually just FaceTimed and I went room by room with her and the inspector, and he kind of pointed out things towards the end of the inspection to her. So she was able to be filled in on stuff that was important that he felt like she needed to know.
So if you can't be there physically, make sure that your agent is going to be able to be there for you or to get you on a phone call or FaceTime, something like that, so that you can see and interact directly with the inspector.
If at all possible, try to always be there for the inspection. But if you can't, we definitely know things come up.
After the inspection's done and they've given you like a preview of what they've seen, what types of things do you usually see, though, in the report?
So the report is more of a honey-do list for the house. This is going to be everything from worn carpet to missing sections of a roof, you name it. There's going to be so much on that list. Usually the list that we're getting is going to be about 50 to 100 pages, depending on the inspector himself. It's going to include pictures of each individual room, of each individual item that they've called out. And most of the time they do it by category. They're going to call out things that are of major issue, minor issue, and stuff to be concerned with for the future. So normally in those inspections, we see things like signs of water damage that may have been caused by old leaks that have been repaired, missing screens on windows, electrical systems that are out of date, leaking water heaters, AC systems that aren't cooling very well. And just remember, it is their job to find something as a home inspector.
You have to remember that home inspectors' primary job is to find anything they can that's wrong with the house. And so they're going to call out things. I think one of those examples that we come across a lot is they may say that a roof is past its end of life because maybe it's got a 30-year warranty and it's been 32 or 33 years, but they might be in great shape. Exactly. And it might last for another 10 or 20 years. So you don't have to necessarily be concerned with all of those. You really want to look at each thing in context and really end up actually talking to your real estate agent who's going to be able to help you put it into perspective of how important that really is.
Absolutely. And so for my clients, I always say start off with the home inspection and look at what the home inspection report says. And then if there's anything major that's called out, like the roof or the AC system, anything like that, then that's when you'd get a professional to come in and look at that roof and look at that AC system.
So can you walk us through how that works, getting another inspector for a specific area?
Sure. Your agent should be able to provide you with certain information like AC units, pools, roofing, plumbers, septic, wells, and any electrical areas where you may need to bring in a specialized inspector. You can either Google that yourself or you can rely on your agent to give you the information. You don't have to bring them at the beginning, like I said, but if the general inspector finds something, it's definitely good to bring a specialist in and get that report from them.
If the item is a concern for you, like an older home with an older roof or a home that has a pool as a major feature, then it would likely make sense to get multiple inspections from specialists.
Absolutely. And just remember, as buyers, you're paying for these inspections to happen. So these are going to be out of pocket up front, and they range anywhere in price from $200 to $500, just depending on the size of the house and the inspection being done.
Now, if a seller is already providing an inspection, which in some areas they do you still recommend getting your own inspection?
I absolutely do. It's always great to have more than one view on something. And just remember, if you do bring in somebody else that the seller is not paying for, that'll be out of your pocket as well.
And then the last question is really, how do I find a good inspector?
So your real estate agent should be able to help you with that. As an agent, I've worked with many great home inspectors that I refer often. I usually try to give my clients a variety of at least 5 different home inspectors to choose from, all of which I've worked with. You can go online. Just Google in the area. I usually tell my buyers to Google the certain area that they're in and home inspector after that. Just make sure if you're going online and you're getting somebody from online, that you read their reviews and also that you check to see if they're licensed in the state. That's an extremely important thing, as you want to make sure that whoever's representing you and giving you that report is fully licensed. And then the last one is personal referrals. Say your parents have used somebody, or you have somebody in the family, anybody you know that's recently purchased a home and has had a good experience with a home inspector. That's definitely a good way to go as well.
An inspection's a process where a professional inspects a property for any potential issues. They generate a report for you, and if they find any issues, it's something that you can address. Now, what happens if you do find issues in the inspection report? What's the next step for you?
So the next step really, for me personally as an agent, I go over the home inspection report with my clients. And that's something that you want to make sure that your agent can and should do with you. I like to go over it page by page because, like I said before, some things that are called out on there may seem scarier than they really are. So after we get the report and we've gone through it step by step, then we can do a couple of different options. If there is something major on there that we like to call out, we can ask the sellers for a request for repairs, meaning that we request for them to fix certain things on our list. The list can be very short and the list can be very long. I highly recommend not giving the sellers a list of every single item the home inspector has given you. It's just probably not going to work out in your favor that they're going to cover everything. But major issues, we could definitely write up and do a request for repair, and that seller can fix those items before we close escrow. We can ask for a credit also. The credit is a financial credit given from the sellers to the buyers. However, it is your responsibility as the buyer after you close escrow to get that completed and done on your own time. So once we do the request for repair or the ask for the credit, now the seller has a couple of different options. They can accept the request for repair and finish those repairs. They can give us the credit as buyers, or they can deny it, or they can counter us with what they think is fair of a price to credit us, or what they want to replace instead of replacing or fixing things. They might only want to fix one or two options.
What are the types of things are you always going to put on there?
So for me, like I said, the home inspector is going to call out major issues, minor issues, and future potential issues. My major issues are going to get called out are the safety issues for you as buyers. We want to make sure that you guys have a roof, that your AC is working, that your hot water is working. We want to make sure that there's not a hole in the roof or anything that's going to be a major concern for you guys as buyers. The safety of my buyers is the first and foremost. So anything that is a safety hazard, I'm definitely going to call out for the buyers.
The other thing that we always make sure is on there, and myself as a lender is making sure of this, is anything that can keep the loan from going through. And some of those minimum requirements, especially for those first-time homebuyer programs, are things like a working heater, working kitchen appliances. If those aren't in working order, then we can't get that loan approved.
Exactly.
Well, this has all been, I think, really helpful for someone who is just trying to learn about what all of these things are. Inspections are such an important thing. Is there ever a circumstance where you don't need to get an inspection?
You know, personally, I believe no. I believe that you should have an inspection for every house that you're getting, whether it be a new house or an existing house. I believe that you should get a home inspection report done. It's for your benefit and your benefit only.
Well, I think this is all really great information. If people do have more questions about the home buying process or even just home inspections, can they reach out to you directly?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love that. The greatest way to reach me is 951-395-1848, and I'm always available to answer any questions, big or small, one question or 1,000 questions.
Perfect. We'll have your contact information in the show notes and also on our Facebook group and our website at fthbpros.com. And again, if you have any questions on the lending side of things, my name is Phil. My contact info will be in the show notes, but you can reach me at 949-357-5029. Thank you for your support and happy home buying. Monica Mastriani is a real estate agent in Southern California with a DRE number of 02099257, working with Legacy Homes Realty. Philip Mastriani is a loan officer and real estate agent in Southern California. His NMLS number is 2141541. His DRE number is 02141890, and he's with Pacific Patriot Financial.